Hello and welcome to the Gamers Table. It is Monday, and we're reviewing Temple of Elemental Evil, the board game.
That's another on the D&D series. They got the Castle Ravenloft, Wrath of the
Endless
Shardalon,
monsters.
and
Drizzt.
Drizzt.
Yep.
There's more to the title than just Drizzt, but that's sort of what everyone knows. So
Yeah. You know what these things are about. We've reviewed all the other three boxes. There are changes. There are big changes that are made, and you cannot play this game the same way you used to. That really should have been in the manual. The first line, do not play this game how you used to play it. Because they've changed some things. Tiles sometimes don't have monster icons at all, which means you don't place a monster. But maybe they'll have trap icons.
sometimes they have more than one monster.
Yes.
A lot of times they have more than one
You
monster.
can get dumped on by a lot of monsters.
Sometimes they have traps, sometimes they don't.
Don't just put everything in, load it all up, shuffle the decks up and play. You will get slaughtered. The adventure book is set up as a campaign, adding in more stuff after you complete each adventure, making it harder, but you get more powerful as well because you can level up between adventures, keep track of your character, you can buy all sorts of new tokens that give you new things. We'll get into that sort of stuff. You can see a lot of it here.
If you like role-playing without all the role-playing and not having to DM, this is perfect.
WizKids took over the production of this, and I know there was a lot of trepidation before the box came out. People were worried about the quality of this, the quality of that, what's going to happen, because WizKids didn't have the same reputation as Wizards of the Coast did for production. But I would have to say that this game came out almost exactly the same as the other ones, quality-wise.
Yeah.
It should, too. You want to be consistent. Well, guess what? There's tiles.
Dungeon tiles.
Lots of dungeon tiles.
And cards. Encounter
And figures.
cards.
Monster figures.
Treasure cards.
Hero figures.
Monster cards.
Yes. There's special
Monster
adventure
figures.
cards. Special
Hit point
adventure cards.
tokens. Monster damage tokens.
Gold tokens.
Character cards. Plenty of them. Dailies. You got your where the utilities and your at-will powers. All the same stuff as the last expansions.
Rule book and adventure book. The two of them go hand in hand.
20-sided die. Chris's favorite.
Bunch of status effect things. New ones disadvantaged and
Advantage. Yeah.
And then all those tokens that you can buy, the recharges and everything.
Extra hit points.
Extra damage and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Trap
Those
tokens. which is a new concept to the game. Lots of good stuff. Well, kind of a new concept. Well, it's done differently than
They're not
Then in the
popping up-
past,
than
yeah.
what they're done.
They're
in
not
the
popping
past.
up as encounters. They're on most of the tiles. You either get monsters or trap tokens on the edge, the entrances to
Right
each
here.
tile, or maybe a combination of both. I think there's there's some with a combination of both
Yeah.
traps and monsters on them.
Now, the nice thing about that is, well, nice and not nice, is it covers the entire width of the passage of the tile, so you can't go past the traps. You're going to have to deal with one of them, and they can be something like clear. They could be a little 1-point dart trap, who cares? They could be 3-point or 4-point spear traps that almost take your character from full to wiped out of the game on your first step. So,
Yeah, some of them are nasty.
yeah. And they also have on the tiles these little symbols on some of them. They're the different element symbols that are used again in specific
Scenarios.
adventures. Yeah,
Adventures.
specific scenarios in here, as Ken says. And the other thing, as we were mentioning, there are monster icons on some of the tiles, like there is on this one. It's only got one. I think the most we've seen on a tile is one time it was 3 monsters came out. Yeah, but that's a lot.
Yeah, well, you
They're-
mixed in
they're
a
well
bunch of the
balanced.
cards from the previous expansions there, and I ended up picking most of the new ones because I just liked them better. There was the odd one I picked, differently, but most of them I ended up picking up from the new characters, because they were good.
The rogue's special abilities, he gets another action that's a non-combat action, which is pretty much just for using him for, like, disarming traps. But the problem we have with the thief is he doesn't get any bonus to disarming a trap, so he disarms a trap as efficiently as a wizard or the cleric or the fighter.
Or inefficiently.
Yeah. It's a 50-50 chance no matter who you are.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you're the thief, that seems like a little...
Yeah, you should be better at
You
it.
should be better at
Yeah.
it.
Not a lot else has changed. But as Ken was mentioning, we added all the powers from the other games because one of the things you are allowed to do is if you have a cleric, you can use any card that is just a cleric card. As long as it's not specific to that character, it can be used by any cleric.
Yeah, Drist is a ranger, but I couldn't use Drist cards with my ranger.
No, because they are, all the Drizzt cards actually say Drizzt on them.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't put in the ones that were no good, so we didn't get any of the stances or anything like that, which is kind of a shame. The nice thing is then we got... The cleric actually went from having one thing that healed and not very well to every one of his cards having some sort of hit point regaining, which is what a cleric does. He fights and heals. And when they give him to you in the game and he fights but doesn't heal, well, then he's really just a fighter, isn't he? And he
Not
doesn't...
a very good one, though.
Yeah, and he's not separated from the rest of the rest of the guys. It's basically generic. And
But
even
that
with-
would kind of fit in with the rogue. You
who's
know,
not really
good
either.
at being a rogue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, the way you were playing it there with the cleric actually being able to heal and stuff, you're combining your powers well. Even with, like, you're still taking a lot of damage from traps and stuff, so you're not always trying to disarm them. Some of you just, like, I got to get there and explore, and you step on the trap, and hopefully it doesn't blow up in your face and that. But you're still taking damage from monsters spawning and hitting you, you know, in your monster phase and that. And so even with all that healing, it's still a challenge. It's not just a breeze, a real easy walkthrough in this game.
Oh yeah, this was the fifth adventure that we played through. We had characters get down to 1 and 2 hit points in this one still, even with the cleric being able to heal as much and all of us picking like the best powers from 4 boxes worth of powers to choose from.
But you know, you get through the campaign, and if you successfully finish a scenario with all your healing surges and stuff, it's like, well, the game's saying, hey, you did pretty well there. We're going to start mixing some tougher monsters in here into your decks and
Which
some other
is
things.
good. That's what you want.
Yeah,
You
you,
know,
want to
like-
make things a little more challenging, and at the same time, you might be able to level up if you get enough gold or whatever. You know, your experience doesn't level you up in this version anymore. What it does is your experience just cancels those encounter cards that are pretty nasty, and there are a lot of nasty ones in this one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to cancel stuff. You know, use it at the appropriate time. You know, if it's hitting only one person and they're not going to die, you might not want to bother canceling it. If it's going to hit everybody, and you might end up losing all your healing surges or something, or too many, what do you call it, treasure or something like that, then you probably want to cancel stuff.
Yeah,
I got a question because I'm not totally sure. Crap, I just lost for a second. Oh, if you're playing this on a one-shot deal, just, you know, let's set it up, play it. Can you level up on a D20, or they just got rid of that?
Just got rid of
totally?
it altogether.
So if you're playing just for one shot, just play level 1 or level 2 characters if you want, because there's no leveling up in the actual adventure anymore.
So, dealing with that, as Ken was saying, when you finish the adventure, it's actually conditional. It's like if you finish this adventure with victory, add these cards in. Like this one, we added the Air Elemental went into the deck, which means now we're going to have to face off against this Blobstompler all the time. But then all of these, if you finish with 2 healing surges, add these cards in. If you finish with 1 healing surge or less, only add these cards in. And then, after the adventure's over, you could pool all the treasures and gold that you have and buy levels for people, or buy, as we were mentioning, one of these different tokens. And there are 4 different types, and they all start at a low value, and each successive one gets more expensive. And there's stuff like this one here that the cleric has is Recharge, which allows you to flip over one of your daily powers that you used again.
Or utilities, yeah.
Yeah, any of the ones that you've had to flip over. Now, when you get one that's like, heal somebody for their healing surge value, flip it over. Recharge, flip it over again. All of a sudden, the party that's almost dead is back to full and get their second win, and you get a chance to finish adventure that otherwise you wouldn't. But we also had to spend 700 gold pieces of our combined gold to get that.
So, yeah,
that
you
being
either
said,
get leveling up or buying stuff.
I think the first adventure we did on the campaign was probably the most difficult because we're pretty smart about how we're leveling the party up.
Mm-hmm.
That now I find we're having a fairly easy time with it.
Well, except for the rolling 19 to 20s for the monsters all the time.
Well,
yeah.
well, there's not much you can do about the rolling.
It has gotten easier for sure. You start buying things, and it's like we're only a third or quarter of the way into the number of scenarios, the storyline.
Yeah, we're at number 5.
More than a third.
We're a 5 of 13.
5 of 13.
So we're less than half, yeah.
Yeah, less than half, more than a third. So yeah, it is getting pretty easy. I don't know what else they're gonna, how difficult those next few scenarios are gonna get, but
I hope they get a
hopefully
little
they get a little
tougher.
more challenging. You don't want like winning every single one all the time could get a little boring. There's like no challenge, and it's like we're gonna win everything. Well, where's the
No,
fun and
so far
challenge?
it hasn't been
Hasn't
that
been
way.
perfectly
There's still
easy.
been a challenge.
It's gotten close.
But the bosses have not been nearly as scary because we're all saving our stuff and just unloading all the big attacks on the boss, and he's like one round of the table and he's gone.
Yeah.
Where it used to be several times around the table and they'd just be kicking the crap out of us.
Yeah.
What was the name of the first one again?
First one was Castle Ravenloft.
Castle Ravenloft. Yeah, see that one was our very first episode, and I remember, we were always quoting ourselves all the time. It was like, endless amounts of monsters. It was very difficult in that, and then the Wrath of Ashardalon came next.
Wrath of Ashardalon balanced everything out. They made it pretty much perfect balance between hard and fun to play.
Yeah.
And then Drizzt went
Drizzt
too far
was
on that.
too far.
Make your characters so they just go, buh, and the entire dungeon bows down to
So
you.
you
It's
get
like,
like the Goldilocks thing going.
Yeah.
This is too hard. This is too tough. This was too easy. Well, this one's probably more like a Ashardalon, I think.
yeah.
It's a little
Yeah,
bit
they've
better
done this
balance
well.
and stuff. It's done pretty well.
I think the campaign was a definite plus.
Yeah.
I think playing the same characters over successive play sessions makes you feel a little bit more familiar with your character. It's something it means more to you.
And the big
You
thing
get
is,
more invested.
and because you power the characters up with so many different things, it actually means more holding on to that character from one adventure to the next because, well, now he's got 3 recharges and he's got an extra hit point and everything, not just he's second level. And he's held on to treasures that he's grabbed in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Except for that boomerang that we can't ever seem to keep. So that's it for this episode of the Gamers Table. Tune in next time where we review another game.
Because that's what we do. Oh, by the way, I'm going to give this an 8.5. 8.5. I'm going to score it anyway. 8.5.
Well, I'll give it a 9. I would give it a 10, but they screwed up and didn't tell us about things in the manual that they should have.
I'll give it an 8. All done.
Yeah, there you go.
Elemental Evil, the board game. The movie, Spaceballs, the Lunchbox.